The Major League Gaming Starcraft 2 tournament. We are in game 3 of this awesome Terran versus Zerg match we've had. Of course, we're getting a great look at that mug of Polt from CM Storm. Played a phenomenal series, tied it up against this gentleman who took a convincing first map. Our Zerg player, it's RagnaroK.
It's awesome to see Polt play this well once more on this stage. For the people who perhaps don't know, Polt is currently the reigning champion of MLG Anaheim. He was able to win here last year in the final against Hyun. Hyun, who is also part of this tournament and also made it out of the open bracket, so it is still very possible that that could be the final again. That would be sick. But it's awesome to see Polt play that well. So far 4-0 in best of threes and currently tied up 1-1 with RagnaroK. But if he wins this one, he's getting incredibly close to at least making it into the upper bracket, which you said before, Nate, that's guaranteed top 6, that's guaranteed prize money, and perhaps even more important, guaranteed WCS points. Polt was part of BlizzCon last year, and he was incredibly devastated that he wasn't able to win it, so he wants to go back, and picking up some WCS points over here definitely helps to increase your chances of making it into BlizzCon at the end of the year.
Yeah, this hasn't been an easy match for him, though. I think what's funny to mention, of course, you brought up he won MLG Anaheim last year, and last year there was actually some crazy Hellbat plays by Polt too, and he hasn't quite been able to channel the power of the Hellbat in this tournament, I'd say.
Maybe he's saving it for when it truly matters. He's like, group stage, nah, I got this.
He went like triple reactor factory Hellbat all in like all 3 matchups last year. It was pretty nuts.
Just like one Marine into reactor into only Hellbats from that point out. And nothing else but Hellbat. So far the openings are identical to game number 1. Game 2, of course, was a little different because Polt decided to open up Gasless and he was able to snipe one of the Overlords. This time it's going to be a Reaper opening, and it's very possible that it's going to be a 3 Reaper opening once more. And what I'm curious to see, Nate, if he's going to try to roll the dice a little more with his Reapers, keep them around a little longer, like we saw him do in the Red Bull Battlegrounds a couple of times, where on a certain point he just said, hey, I know that your speed is about to finish up, but if you're not going to make a whole lot of Zerglings, I'm just going to keep my Reapers here for a while, because then I will still be able to get that Queen. I will still be able to pick off your links because you just don't have that many of them. So we'll see if Polt is going to play it a little more risky or not.
Yeah, first Reaper arrives. Zergling's already popping out though, and this is all, you know, it immediately puts the pressure on Polt. He can't just try to target, look back home and macro. He has to make sure he keeps his focus on this Reaper. Kills one Zergling though, but the Queens are about to pop out, and that makes putting on any additional pressure a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it definitely is. We see the second Reaper on the way and the third Reaper is on the production tab. Now Zergling speed is on the way. Polt, of course, checks the spawning pool. He sees when it starts wiggling. From this point on, he knows in 110 seconds my opponent will have access to speed links. So from that point, normally I have to go home, unless I think my opponent is greedy, and he might just keep these Reapers alive around a little longer. Because I felt in the previous game, RagnaroK, despite speed finishing up, was still building nothing but drones. If Polt would have kept those Reapers alive or around a little longer on Frost, he would have actually been able to get one Queen for sure, and maybe in a bizarre scenario even the second one. Of course, that's the call that we can make, because we see the production tab and Polt doesn't. But eventually Polt is not afraid to play things a little more risky, and we'll see how it's going to be. Oh, that's risky. That's risky in the wrong way. That's not the risky that I had in mind, guys.
There was such little space. They were all stuck in the same little box. Immediately jumped out of there. But these Queens then, you know, they have a little bit more health than I think they would have had otherwise, since Polt has to return home with those forces. He did get a second gas a little bit quicker than he's done before, and he's got his barracks going up, getting the tech lab, getting the starport. I still expect to see a Viking because that's just Polt, but maybe this is a game where he can break out Hellbats. That Roachhorn, he's been getting it faster every game, I feel.
Yeah, it went like 7 minutes something to 6 minutes and 35 seconds last game, and now it's like a 6 minutes and 10 second Roachhorn. Why the hell not? Of course, like we've been talking about Polt perhaps doing something crazy, but RagnaroK also has the ability to do something crazy. This is not like the worst map out there to make a lot of roaches and hide them for a while and then suddenly just march across the map. Then again, Polt does always get Marauders pretty early, so it's very risky to do something like that. But we'll keep a close eye on the head tree and make sure that he finishes up layer tech like he's supposed to.
Yeah, that's right. So the Vikings coming in. Overlord speed, once again, RagnaroK really likes having access to that early information. It's just one of the ways that you can kind of soft counter the Viking, because even though you'll lose your Overlord, you still get to see what they're up to.
6 roaches, Nate, and I'm very curious to see what is the next investment going to be. 6 roaches, of course, will be more than enough to deal with these Hellions and Reapers for now, but what is it going to be after that? Will it just be drones, or is RagnaroK going to do something really crazy? Evolution Chamber is going down right now, still no lay attack though. Yeah, but he will go back to droning.
He made exactly 6 roaches the last game as well, so he wants just enough to defend the Hellion Reaper pressure, and this Overlord's gonna run in. I think as a Zerg, when you see that there's no armory, you immediately get this small level of comfort where you say, okay, I don't have to worry about Hellbats. It means I can kind of just do my thing. However, these Evolution Chambers, he still could go for ranged upgrades.
Well, as soon as the Overlord made his way through the base, the armory will still go down in the back of Polt's natural. This could be a little bit tricky. There's one more Overlord that's not too far away from Polt's base. If RagnaroK decides to send that Overlord in the main base as well, he will see the armory. This is extremely important, though, that he sees the armory, because if he doesn't, well, things get a little dicey.
That's right, Roddy. And this is a cool way for Polt to mix things up, because he's shown the same, not necessarily the same opener, whether Gasless or Reaper, but he's shown the same setup at the base of all of these games, and none of them have been for Hellbats. So this is as good an opportunity as any to try to catch RagnaroK off guard, because he still has a 3rd command center coming in. He still has 2 engineering bays on the way, so he doesn't necessarily have to commit to a giant Hellbat push.
No, exactly. We see upgrades on the way for him as well, as he's on double EVA chamber, and like you said, Polt dropping his 2 E-base. So this is by no means an all-in. This is still a relatively quick 3rd command, and you can't compare this to the game that Polt, for instance, earlier this tournament played against Scarlet on Habitation. That was a much bigger commitment to 2 base. This time there is definitely a follow-up for Polt, but Polt does want to do damage. He's going to send the trademark 4 Marauders and 2 Hellbats to the main base, and then the Reapers and the Hellions towards the 3rd. And I'm always amazed by how some of these Zerg players deal with this, because you can only have units on one place or the other, you would normally say, but actually RagnaroK already having Zerglings in the main. Zerglings alone might not just be enough though. We'll see how well these Hellbats do.
Oh, the position that they've been dropped in though allows RagnaroK to get a very quick surround on these forces. He's been picking up and putting down the one Hellbat though. He lost the first one, but even this just the second Hellbat, as long as it doesn't die, that splash damage is really potent.
This is very micro-intensive for Polt, and in the end perhaps not truly worth it. He wasn't really able to use his Hellions and his Reapers on the right side, because he saw there were roaches, and he knows that as long as those roaches don't show up in the main base, there is just no reason for him to try to send those Hellions towards that expand, because they will just all get picked off immediately. Very impressive with that read of RagnaroK, having Zerglings there in position, actually engaging the Zerglings and the Hellions and the Hellbats in the middle of the map. RagnaroK has smacked this down pretty hard so far.
Yep, he's going to have his 1-1 upgrades a little bit faster than Polt. He has Roach speed, Baneling speed on the way, and he's going to make a couple of Mutalisks. So with Roach speed being researched at this stage of the game, when he could be getting, straight towards his 2-2 upgrades, makes me feel there is a possibility that as Polt tries to take this 3rd base, with these 5 Overlords about to finish, he just produces a massive swell of forces and tries to knock Polt down early on and say, hey, that investment you made into this harass didn't quite pay off. I might be able to deal some counter damage, but 10 drones, it doesn't have to be aggression.
These Zerg players, Nate, they never listen to us. Don't worry. It's not you. It happens to everybody.
It happens.
Damn Zergs. Either way, it's still a possibility that eventually he will throw out a crazy amount of units at Polt. As so far, I feel that this game is going very, very well for RagnaroK. He's going to pick up this Viking. Only 3 kills so far in this game. Still an okay investment for Polt, but not as good as it was in the very first game. Or the second game, excuse me, the game that Polt was able to win. You see, maybe like whether or not Polt wins his TvZs, it all comes down to the amount of kills the Viking gets.
That's directly proportional to his chances of succeeding.
Wow, if he gets his reactor, that's actually a very amazing pickup. In this phase in the game, you're not supposed to be able to pick up a reactor with your first Mutalisk. He will end up losing one of them, but this is going to slow down the medevac production quite a bit.
Yeah, it's really nice, because it's not even just that the medevac is slower, but you can't build any while you have to rebuild this reactor, and then suddenly, if Polt moves out, if he takes a fight, if he sends out a drop, he has that much less healing power with his main army. And these Mutalisks, as small as their numbers may be, are doing a really solid amount of harass for RagnaroK, and he's still actually putting out a couple of roaches with this army. He's getting that 2-2 together, as we'd mentioned. But that fourth base especially, it's so nice that Polt has not been able to do any harass past his initial push.
And there you can really see how much it matters whether or not Polt's original opening is actually effective or not. Because so far, this has not happened in any of the games in this series where RagnaroK has actually fully saturated that base in the right bottom side of the map without taking any damage, without even losing any drones so far. Polt has not killed a single worker yet, despite opening up with 3 Reapers, despite with the Hellions, and despite the Hellbat Marauder follow-up. He has not killed a single drone yet. So from this point on, you would normally say that the engagement should go pretty okay for RagnaroK, as he just has so many units to work with.
That's right. I mean, he's managed to be maxed out much faster for a reasonable amount of time. Of course, the army supply is still even because RagnaroK has a large number of drones, but he would love to fight on creep. Is he really just going to force this engagement? Zergling's going to try to run behind this army. You know, Polt's army really isn't that big, Roddy, and this is a scary spot to be in. He's going to try to retreat some of these Widow Mines brought on the high ground, but the Zergling's running ahead. And they split that splash damage quite well.
Yes, Widow Mine's doing a reasonable job, but at the end of the day, there's still so many banelings. There is a hit squad on the right bottom side of this map, though, so RagnaroK needs to do some work. The drones either got evacuated or got picked off. We'll figure that out soon. I guess they just got evacuated, at least most of them. RagnaroK is doing some real work. He's up 60 supply. He brought the Mutalisk back. He's sending in a lot of roaches. It's sort of okay to lose roaches. They are pretty much the cheapest unit that Zerg is going to work with in this phase in the game.
Yeah, Infestation Pit's going to finish up for RagnaroK. He has a reasonable bit of a bank, but Polt would love to get on the counter-aggressive. You know, the one thing that is really nice despite all this is that he didn't lose those drones, Roddy. He's maintained that 84 drone count. He's been very healthy as far as his economy goes, and the hatchery didn't die, so he can immediately go back to mining it, whereas Polt, he takes a couple blows here and there. He has a 4th command center finishing, but RagnaroK's not going to allow him to just take bases.
I couldn't agree more. It was the first thing that I looked at after the fight happened. How many drones died? Well, in the end, only 4 drones died. The hatchery stayed alive. This did not happen in the other games. Even in the game that RagnaroK was still able to win, he did end up losing that 4th base once. This time, it's just not going to happen. He's very well saturated. He has excellent map vision. The overlords are all over the place. He even has a little bit of creep spread in the middle of the map. He's definitely not a Zerg that like lives by creep spread or dies by creep spread, which is kind of like mocking with everything we know about this race. But so far, it's working out for him.
Yeah, he's been taking some really good engagements on or off these roaches. Like, come on down. We're
one by one.
Waiting at the bottom of the ladder.
That is like a terrible Second World War movie or something. You know, it's like, no, don't send us out here, and then they still get dropped. And it's like, I don't really see the point. Captain, are you sure about these orders you gave me?
dropping down into death. The Hive's going to complete for RagnaroK, which means he can get those additional upgrades. Polt's 3-3, not done quite
so
yet.
So many banelings on the way. 23 additional banelings. We're looking at...
Here he has 34.
What? Oh my god, he's going to go over 50 banelings. He has 53 banelings now. How do you split against 53 banelings? This is like, please, Terran gods, be with me and give me the juicy Widowmine shots because I'm going to need them.
He almost has as many banelings
well, that's
as
a good start.
Yeah, good start so far. He's going to continue to move in the banelings. I mean, this army is still reasonably well split for Polt. The Muse are going to come in behind all of this, and he's actually got a lot of Marines left over.
Yeah, what? That was 53 banelings, but Polt somehow survives with the majority of his Marines. Wow, 53 banelings, okay.
It doesn't even compute.
No. RagnaroK is realizing that he needs a few more banelings to break down this little supply depot wall. I'm not sure if that's in vision of Polt. Polt is going to, well, at least he's going to see it now. As a few banelings will roll into the mineral line and get reasonable connections. Nothing great so far.
Yeah, tried. It was worth a shot. Mutalisk running to the right side. These missile turrets not done yet means dead harass being brought in, and Polt, in the midst of all of this, trying to defend as best he can, has 2 medevacs going in towards RagnaroK's main base, but those Zergling forces, he spotted this. He's coming into the main, and he should defend
this. If he's able to pick up one of these evolution chambers, now, okay, that's not going to happen. There are plenty of Zerglings over here, but RagnaroK has to be very careful. Those evo chambers will most likely be the first target in the next 2 minutes, as long as +3 is not ready. Look at these Marines, by the way. They're holding their ground like champs, and I believe that the Mutalisk are on their way, though, to save the day. But at the same time, Polt is going to try to attack this gold base.
An army getting hit by a lot of Zerglings, Banelings, and the Roaches there. That force in the main base just now getting cleaned up by the Mutalisk. But man, the power of 3-3 for Terran. A small window where you have the upgrade lead has been quite nice for Polt. The supply still close between the two of these players. Polt is down 20 workers, so the army supply still remains relatively even.
Yeah, it's surprising how close this game is now, because for a while it looked like things were going really well for RagnaroK, and that attack looked devastating, but for the first time you kind of saw a fight which you expect off creep, where it's just very hard for Banelings to truly get the connections that they're looking for. Gets a good cancel though, and then a potential new command center there for Polt. And of course RagnaroK wants to make sure that Polt does not get an additional base. 4 base Terran is pretty scary, 5 base Terran, then you know that you're going to have to deal with Marines for a very long time. So he wants to send some units over, he wants to keep having units on the left side of the map as well. And if I was him, I would really try to get creep a little closer to this hallway in the left top side of this map.
Yeah, it's actually really surprising just how much RagnaroK has done in this series without creep, but his Overlord spread has been good beyond the stage where that Viking came through. Get some Mutalisks into the natural, he's picked off a few workers. Those 2 Medivacs in the bottom right could be a big threat, but RagnaroK already on top of it. Banelings, Ultralisks rushing over to defend, and the Muta's actually hitting that planetary again, forcing the SCVs to run off.
Yeah, picked off a few workers there. I love how RagnaroK sometimes gives Polt the idea that, you know, he is exposed and that Polt should send his Medivacs there, because then by the time that they're in the right bottom side of this map, but once again we see 27 Banelings.
He already has 29, yeah. Going over 50 again.
Hey, there's still these 2 Medivacs in the natural could do potentially a lot of damage, but RagnaroK has to prioritize this hit squad now. The Mutalisks are actually chasing it down. The Mutalisks will clean this up, and now RagnaroK is once again going to try to fight with over 50 Banelings.
He's chasing these Marines. There's 39 Banelings for 49 Marines, and he's continuing to move forward. There's his planetary fortress. Is he going to focus on the planetary once again? It cost him the last game. He's going for it. Ultralisks moving in, Mutalisks coming in from behind, but there's a lot of bio here for Paul. Planetary's taken down. This army, though, should be able to deal with what's here.
Yes, well, there are not that many units of Polt. Polt has army supply, I'm just not sure where it is. I do not feel that this is his entire army. Where are the reinforcements, Polt? There they are. That's actually enough, I think, to clean up this army. But this time Polt did not repair that planetary fortress immediately. If he would have done that, then it would have been a mirror image of the last game.
Yeah, he's moving out another command center. He's got one in the top left, and we haven't yet reached that point where Polt's floating out his main and his natural expansion, but RagnaroK is still on top of his game, coming over and bringing the harass.
This is just not enough Mutalisks, though. Like, I can't imagine that these Mutalisks will be able to kill this command center. They do have +2 flyer attacks, I believe. Yes, they do, but you know, he just needs a bigger army or bigger cloud to work with.
There's only 10 Mutas on the map. You're right, Roddy. Marines are going to come back. And Zerglings
will help.
They can do it, I'd say.
And they have +3 upgrades now as well, so these Marines are very exposed. And with the Zerglings there, now he might be able to get that 5th command center in the left up side of the map. But at the same time, Polt wants to take out the gold, and Polt will take out the gold.
Picks off that hatchery. Ultralisk comes in with the Banelings, but there's so many Marauders, RagnaroK's not even sure what to target at this point. Yeah. Oh, he's going to get chased through a little field of Widow Mines.
Yeah. Ultralisks are very beefy though, they like it. It's like, what's tickling me?
I will say the one thing that I'm a little bit surprised with, RagnaroK in none of these games has gotten adrenal glands. So the Zerglings, they could be a little bit beefier and it would help with the engagements, but so far, he doesn't really need it at this point. He's chasing Polt back once again. He's got that supply lead and he's been bringing lots and lots of pressure.
Yeah, he has a supply lead, but I don't feel it's a supply lead he needs to take fights off creep. And I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but that's just what TvZ is all about. Yeah. Currently, we're looking at 93 Terran supply against 76. He wants to deny this base, and I really like it, because if this base goes up and running, we know if Polt is on 5 bases, he's not going to die for the longest time. But look at this Terran army, it's going bigger and bigger, and these Ultralisks, they're easy targets, man, for all these Marauders.
Yeah, especially off of creep, like you said, Roddy. 3 missile turrets gonna get added. You know, it's these. Oh, that's a nice Widow Mine shot. Random Widow Mines. Infestors are coming out into the game, though. With Ultralisk Banelings Infestor is one of the best counters that you're going to get to bio-based armies because they clump up naturally. And, you know, RagnaroK's starting to get a little bit more harassing. He's rebuilt a reasonable number of Mutas.
Look at the income for Polt, though, with all those mules being dropped at that new, freshly acquired 5th base. He's mining up to 3,000 minerals a minute.
9 mules!
The yellow submarine is definitely putting in the hours over here. So Polt's army is just going to skyrocket. Look at the army supply suddenly, Nate. It's 137 against 84. Ultralisk Infestor is fantastic against the units that Polt has, but it's a numbers game as well. Widow Mine's getting good connections. I feel that this is Polt's moment to shine.
Yeah, he's moving forward. The Widowmines are ready to cover his retreat path. The Mutalisk's coming from the north, and most of RagnaroK's forces are still on the east side of the map. He's going to try to catch these medevacs, try to catch these bioforces, but he's going to lose his left side expansion in the meantime. And despite having that gold base rebuilt, gold base doesn't last forever.
There are Terran forces all around the map now. 143 army supply. Muleside is a very good tool to have, as we can see, as Polt is pretty much maxed out. RagnaroK has 172 supply, but he has way more workers than his opponent. Fungal Grove and Banelings can definitely do terrible things to bio-based armies, but the Fungals are going to have to be fantastic, and the Baneling Connects are going to have to be fantastic. We're having two fights at the same time now, Nate.
Polt's moving in on the left, he's moving in on the right. There is a Fungal. The Banelings and Ultra stopped one of these forces so far, but Polt is running into the natural expansion, picking off a Queen, looking for, I mean, anything that's here at this point. He's already charging back across the right side because
loving it.
RagnaroK has to run through a field of Widowmines to get to any point to engage in this game.
Polt is playing like a madman now, leaving the Marauders on the ramp as well. The Banelings won't connect. He's going to take out this gold base. Ultralisk has to funnel through this ramp one by one. Polt is going to pick off all of them. Fantastic play by Polt.
And the Mutas and the Ultra trying to work in tandem to slow this down, but it's not enough. Polt takes game number 3 and will win this series 2-1.
What a fantastic TvZ series. And Polt is currently up 5-0 in this group. Has not dropped a single best of 3 yet. He said it in the start of the tournament. He wants to stand on this stage at the end of the tournament, lifting that trophy once more. And so far, Nate, he's a man on a mission. 5-0 against 5 amazing best Starcraft players in best of 3s. 10-2 in maps, I believe. That is very impressive.
Polt has brought his A game to this MLG and showing another phenomenal series against a player that really doesn't get quite the credit for how good he is. RagnaroK had just put up a fantastic fight against an opponent like Polt, but he's still got an opportunity to make his way through the group stage and play out in the championship bracket.
Either way, I really enjoyed that series, and I believe that Trap versus Hyun is going to be the next series on this stage. I know you'll be sitting here still, Nate, so you're getting treated with some PvZ. I know you love it. It makes your Terran heart beat double time. Either way, we're going to head over to a very small commercial break, and after that, we'll be back with Trap versus Hyun, two of the best Korean players in this tournament. You don't want to miss it.